The first question here is state practice for the formation of customary rule includes 1. State actions, 2. State claims. The right answer is both. State practice for formation of customary rule includes state actions and state claims both. The controller of certifying authorities in India must maintain a database of the disclosure records of. The answer over here is 1 and 2. Certifying authority, cross certifying authority. Foreign certifying authority is not needed. Under Section 37 of the IT Act, the certifying authority can suspend the digital signature certificate if 3 and 4. The subscriber requests for the same and in public interest. So in these two scenarios, the certifying authority can suspend the digital signature. In the cases before Cyber Appellate Tribunal, the appellant cannot authorize his relative, who is neither his officer nor a legal practitioner, to appear on behalf of him. Then this is a wrong this thing. I think the grace marks were given for this question. Let's move ahead. The offense of stalking upon second or subsequent conviction is cognizable and non-bailable. In kidnapping, the consent of minor is wholly immaterial because he's a minor. Under the provisions of the Trade Unions Act 1926, any person who has attained the age of dash may be a member of the registered trade union subject to any rules of the trade union or to the contrary. ये है 18 years. Spurious goods under the provisions of the Consumer Protection Act imply, इसका आंसर है such goods and services which are claimed to be genuine but actually not so. Who is liable to pay compensation in case of death or permanent disablement? Owner of the vehicle. फिर Indian Evidence Act applies to judicial proceedings in court. Fact in issue means fact, existence or non-existence of which is disputed by the parties. In a bailable offense, bail is granted as a matter of right, both by the police officer and the court. The conciliation proceedings can be the answer over here is cannot be used as evidence in any judicial or arbitral proceedings. So conciliation proceedings को evidence की तरह नहीं use कर सकते हैं कोई भी judicial या arbitral proceeding में. The serious fraud investigation office deals with, it takes up cases for investigations referred to it by central government. ये serious fraud investigation office का previous paper में abbreviation से related भी question आया था that what does SFIO stand for, and that is serious fraud investigation office. Directive principles are not justifiable yet fundamental in the governance of the country. Who has the power to dissolve the Lok Sabha? President. An amendment of the Constitution can be initiated by introduction of bill for such purpose in either in Council of States or House of People. Which of the following is a function of Central Pollution Control Board under the provisions of the Section 16 of the Air Prevention and Control in Pollution Act 1981? इसका आंसर है to improve the quality of air. फिर the destruction of fish by use of explosive or by poisoning the water is prohibited by C. Indian Fisheries Act 1897. Section 10 of CPC does not apply when the previous suit is pending in a foreign court. Principle of res judicata is mandatory. International law is a weak law because there is absence of compulsory dispute settlement mechanisms and independent system of sanctions. Which of the following territories have been declared as common heritage of mankind territories? The answer is moon and deep seabed. And because of this, the answer is B, that is 1 and 3. Common heritage of mankind territories, moon and deep seabed. Which of the following is not the objective of United Nations? Establishment of democratic governments throughout the world. Now, obviously, you have to read the question very well because a lot of times it is asked in negative. So यहाँ पे कौन सा function है ये नहीं पूछा है because at that point you will just see option one and you know that this is the function, right? So don't get confused there. Make sure that you read the question really well and understand whether they have asked in affirmative or negative. And obviously ये answer गलत है because the type of government does not matter and the UN has no role in telling that whether a democratic form of government has to be established or a presidential form of government or so on and so forth, right? So therefore the answer is C. The committee that led to the passing of the Criminal Law Amendment Act 2013 was headed by J.S. Verma. Justice J.S. Verma is the right answer. What is true of perpetual injunction? It is preventive in nature. The provisions of dash do not apply to trade unions registered under the provisions of Cooperative Societies Act and Companies Act दोनों भी. नहीं, it is only Trade Union Act and Cooperative Societies Act and that is why both A and B. Okay, wait, I read the question wrong. It is both A and B with respect to Cooperative Societies Act and Companies Act both. Trade Union Act के बारे में पूछा गया है. Right, so the answer over here is C. The provisions of Cooperative Societies Act and Companies Act do not apply to trade unions registered under the provisions of Trade Union Act. So both A and B. According to Salmond, every legal right is availed against a person upon whom lies the correlative duty. The binding force of precedent is destroyed or weakened by abrogated decision. Which of the following is true in respect of a government contract which does not conform to the provisions of Article 299 of the Constitution? They are not enforceable in court against the parties. Right? फिर State Bar Council under the provisions of Section 35 of the Advocates Act 1961 has the authority to reprimand the advocate है, suspend the advocate from the practice for such period of time as it may deem fit, ये भी है, remove the name of the advocate from the state roll of advocates, ये भी है, and that is why the right answer is all of these. Which of the following is untrue regarding the qualification of a person to be admitted on the state rolls maintained by state bar councils? He must be an Indian citizen. ठीक है, बाकी सब true है. Time which has begun to run can be stopped in case of minority insanity. You can see none of the above. All are wrong. If an instrument may be construed either as promissory note or a bill of exchange, it is an ambiguous instrument. How is the net worth of a foreign company calculated for the purpose of corporate social responsibility? यहाँ पे foreign company के बारे में बात कर रही है किया जा रहा है and it shall be calculated as per section 198 and section 381 of the Companies Act 2013. ये question आपको bare act में मिल जाएगा. What you have to do is that you have to see 197 and you have to see the section 381 and 198 and see which of the sections are related to the foreign company and likewise you will come and mark the right answer. According to one of the theories of punishment, evil should be returned by evil. इसका आंसर है retributive theory. Make sure that you read each of these theories briefly. Reformative में आपको पता होना चाहिए that here the aim of the state is to reform the person and to make sure that the person in a future date reintegrates themselves with the society. Deterrent theory is basically आप किसी को डरा रहे हो by showing that this is going to be the consequence of the particular act. And then preventive theory, that you are trying to prevent somebody from committing the said act. And then retributive is obviously an eye for an eye, that if you've done something wrong, then something wrong should be done with you, right? So इसमें से कोई भी question आ सकता है. Which of the following actions can be taken by a registrar under section 4 clause 5 of the Companies Act? Take action for striking of the name of the company from the registrar of the companies. Then, which of the following are included in the concept of state under Article 12? Railway board and electric board है, फिर जुडिशरी भी है, यूनिवर्सिटी भी है, इसीलिए all of the above. The word procedure established by law in Article 21 means a law which is reasonable, just and fair. ये बहुत सारे case laws में भी upheld किया गया है. So make sure that you also read few landmark judgments in relation to certain articles which are very important and have been talked about a lot recently. That is 14 and then 19 and 21. And recently, the Supreme Court judgment, which talked about giving or recognizing marriage between LGBTQ community. You should also read about that because that would be one of the recent judgments for the 2023 paper. Let us move on to 41. Objection as to non-joinder or misjoinder of parties under Order 1, Rule 13 of CPC should be taken at the earliest possible opportunity or shall be invalid. Okay. Objection as to the place of suing can only be taken before the court of first instance at the earliest possible opportunity. 43. On the retirement, removal, or death of next friend under Order 32, Rule 10 of CPC, the suit is liable to be stayed. In India, which of the following authorities has the power to block websites? CERT dash in. The right of private defense is available when there is no time for recourse of public authorities. Which of the following can be considered retrenchment under the provisions of the Industrial Disputes Act? Termination, nahi. Ill hai. Abandonment of job by an employee, no. Termination on account of reaching the age of superannuation, no. So none of these. Which of the following statements hold true regarding the imprisonment under provisions of Section 14, Clause 3 of the Child Labor Prohibition and Regulation Act of 1986? It may extend to 1 month. Onus to prove reasonable excuse for withdrawal from the society of the other is on respondent. A proclaimed person whose property has been attached can claim the property or the sale proceeds on appearance within 2 years of attachment. Here, the question whether a statement was recorded in the course of investigation is a question of fact. Then, where the police submits a final report under sections 173 clause 2 of CRPC for dropping of proceedings to a magistrate, the magistrate may accept the same right, may reject the same right, may reject the same and order further investigation. ये भी सही है, इसीलिए any of the above. The orders under section 125 CRPC are summary in nature and do not finally determine the rights and obligation of the parties, which are to be finally determined by a civil court. Then 53, a contingent contract based on the specified uncertain events not happening within a fixed time under section 35 both B and C, becomes void at the expiration of the time fixed, becomes void if the happening of the event becomes impossible before the expiry of the time fixed. Which among the following is authorized under the IT Act to prescribe the security procedures and practices for the purposes of Section 14 and Section 15 of the Act? Central government. The essential ingredient of tort of negligation is when one owes a duty of care towards the other, right? When one commits a breach of that duty, ye bhi sahi hai. The other person suffers a damage as a consequence thereof, ye bhi sahi hai, and that is why all of them are essential ingredients. Option C. Vicarious liability includes. What does it include? It includes liability of the principal for the tort of his agent right, master for his servant right, partners for each other, ye be right, and that is why all of the above. This paper was comparatively easy because इसमें as compared to the AIBE 8 paper, the questions are not as lengthy and बहुत सारी क्वेश्चंस में ऐसा भी है जहाँ पे आपकी मेमोरी नहीं टेस्ट की जा रही है. It is more about practical knowledge or whatever you have learned so far along with questions which are directly asked from Bare Act, right? इसीलिए this paper, according to me, was much easier as compared to the AIBE 8, which was very difficult to even complete in time, according to me. And a lot of questions were questions which you were probably seeing for the first time. So it also depends on what type of paper is coming because obviously यहाँ पे कोई merit list नहीं लगने वाली है. We are all supposed to just qualify for the exam. So let us just prepare to the best of our abilities and hope that the paper is like the AIB 9 and not like AIB 8. Again, moving ahead, necessity rule as to admissibility of evidence is applicable when the maker of a statement is ये भी all of the above है. Is dead or become incapable of giving evidence, right? Is a person who can be found, but his attendance cannot be procured without unreasonable delay. Is a person who cannot be found. Iसीलिए all of the above. Secondary evidence of a document means copies of a document, right? Oral account of the contents of the document, right? इसीलिए both A and B. A will is required to be proved by calling at least one of the attesting parties who, when it is registered, when it is unregistered, when it is admitted. Sab sahi hai, all of the above. Any person in section 106 of the Evidence Act refers to a party to the suit. In a cognizable case under IPC, police have authority to arrest a person without warrant, right? Authority to investigate the offense without permission of the magistrate is also right. Therefore, both A and B. During investigation, a search can be conducted without warrant by any police officer, by investigating officer, both A and B. Committal proceedings under Section 209 of CRPC are in the nature of inquiry. फिर which is correct? Proposal plus acceptance equals to promise? Correct. Promise plus consideration equals to agreement? Correct. Agreement plus enforceability is equals to contract. All of them are correct. Communication of acceptance is complete as against the proposer when is it complete? It is complete when it is put in the course of transmission to him so as to be out of the power of the acceptor. In case of general offer for a valid contract, the acceptor must have the knowledge of the offer before acceptance by performance. Under the provision of Transfer of Property Act 1882, the unborn person acquires vested interest or transfer for his benefit. 67 का है upon his birth. Then every transfer of immovable property made with the intent to defeat or delay the creditors of the transferor shall be voidable at the option of the creditor so defeated or delayed. Where co-judgment debtors are in the position of joint promisors, each is jointly and severally liable to the decree holder. At site under Section 21 of the Negotiable Instruments Act 1888 means on demand. Section 5 of the Limitation Act applies to सूट्स को नहीं अप्लाई होता है, एग्जीक्यूशन को भी अप्लाई नहीं होता, इलेक्शन पेटिशंस को भी अप्लाई नहीं होता, एंड दैट इज व्हाई नन ऑफ द अबव. Which of the following companies will have to constitute a corporate social responsibility committee under the Companies Act of 2013? C. ये क्वेश्चन पहले भी आ चुका है. इट वाज फ्रेम्ड डिफरेंटली, बट ये जो फैक्ट्स है ये सेम है. So a company having a net profit of 5 crores or more, net worth of 500 crores, or turnover of rupees 1,000 crore or more is the right answer. इसमें ये भी था कि कितना percentage. The question was basically how much percentage will they give as corporate social responsibility, and the answer was 2%. A disqualified person here transmits no interest to his or her own heir. This is also very important. In case in which a specific act confers a discretionary power on an authority, the court can direct the manner in which the power is exercised. Yes, the court can direct that the power be exercised in accordance with law. Yes, both A and B. The Bar Council of India rule, which stipulated that the person aged 45 years and above could not be enrolled as advocate, was struck down by the Supreme Court in Indian Council of Legal Aid and Advice versus Bar Council of India, which is an incorrect statement. An arbitral award is a contract. Which of the following statements hold true for adjudicatory bodies? Inherent lack of jurisdiction in a tribunal cannot be cured or created by the act of the parties. The Supreme Court held in VC Rangadurai versus D. Gopalan, an advocate who has been disbarred or suspended from practice must prove after expiration of a reasonable length of time that he possesses the good character necessary to guarantee uprightness and honor in his professional dealings. The present Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996 is based on, ये तो सबको पता है, Unistral. Who among the following is authorized to issue regulations regarding self-prospectus? The answer over here is SEBI. Which of the following is not included in the definition of cattle as given under the Indian Forests Act? Kitten. I did not know this answer personally. Hopefully, we'll be able to find this in the Bear Act. So make sure you carry the small acts also if possible. That is Indian Forest Act. The provisions of Arbitration and Conciliation Act of 1996 have to be interpreted being uninfluenced by the principles underlying the 1940 Act. This observation was laid down in the case of Sunendaram Finance Limited VNCP versus NEPC Limited. Sundaram case tha basically. Remember Sundaram. Then, which of the following services cannot be provided to the company by an auditor appointed under the provisions of Companies Act? Internal audit नहीं कर सकते, actuarial service, managerial services भी नहीं कर सकते, इसीलिए all of these. Under the Wildlife Protection Act 1972, any person who teases an animal in a zoo may be punished neither A and B with fine extend to 5,000 with imprisonment which may extend up to 1 year. दोनों भी गलत है. The entry of forest and protection of wild animals and birds was moved from dash to the dash by 42nd Amendment of the Constitution of India. So it was basically moved from state list to concurrent list. तो अभी यूनियन और स्टेट दोनों भी इस सब्जेक्ट पे लॉज बना सकते हैं क्योंकि अब ये concurrent list का पार्ट है. Droit des gens Law of Nations 1758 was written by whom? Emirate de Wattel. Emirate de Wattel. I remember this because इसमें भी DES days है, इसमें DE है. So it's comparatively easier to just figure out that because it's difficult to remember each and every author of particular books or publications. Let us move on to 87 to establish section 34. अब ये देखिए यहाँ पे बहुत सारी बार आपको ये नहीं बताया जा रहा है कि कौन से एक्ट को रिफर करना है. But if you have gone through the table of content of your acts once before you appear for the paper, you will know, and obviously we have also studied this during our LLB, कि यहाँ पे अगर common intention के बारे में options दिए गए हैं मतलब you have to refer to your IPC. So this knowledge is something which is expected from you. So the answer is A, common intention must be proved but not overt act is required to be proved. Then under the provisions of Industrial Disputes Act 1947, the appropriate government can order in writing refer to the dispute of both for promoting settlement of the dispute right, refer any matter appearing to the relevant to the dispute of court inquiry right, both A and B. Then, which of the following statement is true for the loss of confidence by management in workmen? Even when dismissal or discharge is held to be wrongful, the court may not yet order the reinstatement of if the employer is able to establish that the workman held a position of trust and there was a loss of confidence. ये सही है. Loss of confidence may also be in the ground to discharge simpliciter of the workman, both A and B. Under the provision of Consumer Protection Act 1986, the period of limitation for filing complaint before the National Commission is 2 years from the date of which the cause of action has arisen. Grievous hurt under the Motor Vehicles Act 1988 means grievous hurt as defined by IPC. A retracted confession is cannot be solely made on the basis of conviction unless the same is corroborated. Then a confession to be inadmissible under section 25 of the Act must relate to another crime. बाकी सारे सिनेरियोज में acceptable है, admissible है basically. An unjustified and unexplained long delay on the part of investigating officer in recording the statement of a material witness would render the evidence of such witness unreliable. Recording of pre-summary evidence may be dispensed with under section 200 of CRPC. इसका आंसर है if the complaint is made in writing by public servant in the discharge of his official duties. Contract without consideration made in writing and registered and made on account of natural love and affection is valid. There's nothing to be void in this particular sentence, right? Then under Transfer of Property Act 1882, the salary of a public officer cannot be transferred. Where a debt is transferred for the purpose of securing an existing or future debt, the debt so transferred if received by the transferor or recovered by the transferee is applicable first in payment of cost such recovery. This is the provision of mortgaged debt. Last two questions for this particular paper. A suit under Section 6 of the Specific Relief Act can be bought out by tenant holding over. Injunction cannot be granted in a suit in which the specific performance cannot be enforced.